deck has both 3 naturalizes and 2 copies of Creeping Corrosion in the sideboard.
Yeah.
So it could be...
On the right, we see Mark Morrison. On the left, we see John Kassari.
So the deck on the right is Mark Morrison. He's our Tezzeret Pure Steel Paladin player.
That's right. And on the left, we're going to have the Blue Wolf Run list.
Right.
Now, the Pure Steel Tez deck, one of the things that was kind of interesting is that when you're playing against that, and I was playing the Mono Blue Delver deck that I've been working on, that Pure Steel Paladin, it beats quickly, too. I mean, it beats fast. We're already underway. Vault Scourge from Mark Morrison and Hinterland Harbor from John Kassari.
Mark Morrison's deck, the first deck list I've ever seen to play both Vault Scourge and Day of Judgment. 2 cards normally not associated with one another.
You know, way back in the day, you'd occasionally see some Day of Judgments in White Weenie, and the basic idea was that you could get them down to a certain point and then probably have them dead, but if you didn't, you'd have to reset. It was always a little schizophrenic, but it was necessary in that moment. So my question right now is it that moment again, or is it a little schizophrenic?
Well, the Day of Judgment's certainly not at their best against the blue-green opponent, who has basically all big guys who all provide value when they come into play anyway, so.
4 Frost Titan from John Kassari. That is a card I love seeing.
Yeah. Also, 4 means he means business.
Sphere of the Suns.
So the ramping already beginning to see if he can get the classic 2-4-6 start.
That is the God start.
Yes.
Its 1 in this 2-4-6 start includes 6 bounce spells, 2 unsummoned, 4 Vapor Snag. Both these players undefeated at 4-0.
So we have a Glenhawk Idol and a replay of the Vault Scourge.
This puts Mark Morrison down to 18. Ponder. Looks like a Snag land.
Yep.
4 Glimmer Post in John Kassari's deck.
Yeah. I know back in Vegas, Corbett Gray was sort of, as far as I know, the first person who kind of put that on the map a little bit with his Funko red-green ramp deck, and now it's sort of a staple. But I could be misappropriating credit there.
The thing is about trying to attribute credit. I mean, you can do the best that you can do. Usually the litmus test I use is kind of publisher perish style.
Sure.
Did it get out there into the ether?
Yeah, first to market counts a lot for these things.
Yeah. In for 5. Yeah, one of the things, I mean, someone can say, "Oh, I had that deck." Well, if you had it in your basement,
right.
I don't know if I'm going to care. It's at best a footnote. Vault Scourge number 2. Seeing blue-green from his opponent, no reason to fear bounce. Not bounce. No reason to fear sweep.
Well,
but he does show a bounce there.
That's a huge setback. That could give John the time here. He needs to land one of his big threats.
Glinthawk, not Glinthawk. Yeah, Glinthawk is a huge tempo loss in when you're recasting anything.
Right.
Unless it's a 0.
So we have Solemn to fetch a land, so now all the 6s are online next turn. He has 8 Titans, 4 green and 4 blue, so he's got access to some heavy hitters.
His life total is fairly low, but 2 Vault Scourges don't beat for much without some help. Now, the funny thing, Mark Morrison has not really shown John Kassari what his deck does.
Yeah, he's just looking like a Tempered Steel deck.
Yeah, these decks, I mean, the question is, we talked about before, how much do you show your hand to your opponent? Because if you don't need to, you can give them a lot of information for game 2.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, you might have lost a game you could have won.
Right. Something of a difference here is the fact that, so much of the collateral damage is exactly the same. Like, he is soft to disenchants the exact same way that a Tempered Steel deck is. So there's very little misinformation. Like, perhaps he doesn't play around Tezzeret not knowing that it's there. But it probably doesn't change the way that John sideboards very much.
That's very fair. And we get the first recast.
He just drew a Consecrated Sphinx, but...
Oh, look at that.
We're on the land screw.
Boom. Frost Titan holding down a blue source. Does not untap. Still have 4 in the air.
Yeah.
John Kassari's life is diminishing rapidly. He
gets to basically lock him out of lands and play a Consecrated Sphinx, which can hold down the fort and just gas him through the game. So.
Absolutely. What are the answers that we see to Consecrated Sphinx? Doomblade or the Global Reset? Day of Judgment. Day of Judgment is not happening this game.
We're pretty far away from a Day of Judgment.
We see a Flare Husk. Flare Husk gives a little bit of his ghost up. You know, like that's an unusual choice.
Right.
And look at this, John Kassari aggressively poking the Glacial Fortress.
I assume this is going to be a Sphinx to hold down the fort.
The equivalent of a Titan. The Consecrated Sphinx makes the 9th Titan. Oh, Primeval.
Sure, go get some Glimmer Posts here.
That's a little risky.
Well, I guess
Glimmer Post gain life. There we go. It's 4 life.
It's possible. Well, it's also possible that this presents lethal. It's possible he doesn't want to play the Sphinx because, in theory, he's worried about Dispatch, which is now online, and which he also hasn't really had an opportunity to cast for value yet. So,
Mark Morrison struggling here.
From John's perspective, this is probably a much safer line to take.
4 life undoes most of the attack.
Yeah, it's actually just the turn.
Yeah, the only way that Mark could threaten him is if he laid Mox, Opal, Land, and Tempered Steel.
There's a concession.
John still doesn't know the actual nature of his opponent's deck. Unlike us, John does not have deck lists to work with.
Right, but I assume
he's still going to bring in Naturalize and Creeping Corrosion. We were talking about this earlier. Wow. Yep. Shatterstorm is a good card.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really surprise me to see it in his sideboard since I'm willing to wager his Game 1 matchup against Tempered Steel is not awesome, so we need some sort of cheat for the matchup. Mark's in a ton of trouble now. I mean, I feel he really had to win the first game to have a good shot in this matchup because the hate that John's presenting is just...
Yeah.
It's for real, so...
And looking at Mark's sideboard, I don't think Mark has anything going. I mean, looking at this sideboard, is there a single card he brings in that actually does anything? Spellskite.
No.
That's the closest. And the reason about Spellskite not being great, I mean... You're protecting something from a Naturalize, but at the cost of your aggression.
Yeah.
I actually think this is a good example of where the Day of Judgments might end up being a really good card.
I don't know. I think he's got to... I mean, he might keep them in the deck because he basically has nothing to bring in, but there's no way he can win long. Like,
I can see him having them not because he wants to go long, but because he just doesn't have anything particularly good otherwise, and he's just looking for anything in case the game gets out of control.
Sure.
I mean, for him, he's just pushing the Global Reset and hoping that he comes out of it better, which is not likely, but
yeah,
he's a real dog here, I think. On the right, Mark Morrison playing a very interesting Pure Steel Tezzeret deck. So it's running Pure Steel Paladin and Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, both on the same deck. We saw him really get pushed over here by a little bit of Mana Screw and then Frost Titan nailing the coffin in from John Kassari playing a blue Wolf Run deck.
And kind of funny enough, stalling on 2 lands is not unheard of for Tempered Steel decks. So, again, that's further selling the point that that's where John probably thinks his opponent's at. Mark actually has 25 lands in his deck. He has a ton of mana, so him stalling there is a little unfortunate, but it definitely gives more to the presentation that he's just playing against a Tempered Steel deck.
For those of you who are just joining us, this is the Star City Games Live Open Series here in Los Angeles, California. Probably one of the best places for good weather today of anywhere. And on our right, we have Mark Morrison playing a Pure Steel Tezzeret, very much a hybrid deck. And then John Kassari, who is also playing an unusual deck, Wolf Run Blue. Now, interestingly, we talked earlier about how Wolf Run as an archetype, when we were referring to kind of the classic red-green Wolf Run, might be the way that things might go to the future to answer the Delver decks. But if you're actually fighting against other Wolf Run, Frost Titan is the best Titan in a Titan fight.
Right. He is the ace against other Titans. And he has 6 bounce spells too. He has 4 Vapor Snacks and 2 Unsummons plus Snapcaster Mage. So he can actually fight a tempo game in similar matchups too.
Yeah. I won't think of his deck as archetypically blue-green/red tempo, but in a matchup versus another Primeval Titan deck, he does get to play a tempo game.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I would not be surprised to see John Kassari singing some na 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 to his opponent in a second here, though. John checks his hand. Mark's keeping. He does not. That's a big sigh of contemplation. I'll keep.
Yeah,
I'll keep. Was that an act? Looking down.
I would guess on the body language, it's creeping corrosion and a marginal hand otherwise.
Ponder to find stuff. He shuffles it away.
Back.
One land, one Solemn Simulacrum, and a card I couldn't see were not what he needed. So it's possible that what he's looking for here is either actual action, or was that land he's looking for? Like more than one land? He's got one land in hand.
He's got a Nexus.
Yeah, looking for a green source. I think he found it. Is that a harbor?
I believe so.
2 mana. Spellskite from the board.
Yep. So there's a Dark Slick Shore and a Spellskite, which is kind of the first tip-off that something weird might be going on.
We see a Drowned Catacomb, another thought of weirdness. Vault Scourge for actual mana here.
Yeah.
Now John knows that something is up, but he might not care because his cards could just be the exact...
Yeah, it wasn't... Whatever he drew was not a Hinterland Harbor because he just passed.
Oh, only 2 land in play. Mark Morrison laying a land before attacking here. In for 1. The unusual case of 21 versus 20. Sorry, 21 versus 19. Math is hard. We see a Vapor Snag redirected by Mark Morrison to his Spellskite. He says go. Mark Morrison...
There's that green mana. All right, here we go.
Okay, up to 5 mana now.
Now it's getting real.
Solemn Simulacrum might be getting a forest here. There it is. And Mark Morrison looks like he's just ready to untap. He's got... I'm going to untap in a second, buddy. There we go.
Tezzeret.
We're going to see a Tez. 1, 2, 3. 5 mana, 4 available right now. Tezzeret, I believe. I think we're going to see a big Vault Scourge.
So John's hand appears to be all 6 casters. It looks like it is a Primeval Titan, 2 Primeval Titans, 2 Consecrated Sphinxes, and 2 Consecrated Sphinx and a Frost Titan or something. He has 5 6-mana dudes in his hand.
Oh, and we get a Impulse.
In short, John needs a 6th land.
That is 30 mana worth of spells in John Kassari's hand.
Yeah.
30 mana is an awesome amount of mana to have. John, not quite there yet. Sword. Is that sort of Body in Mind?
Yeah.
Sort of protection from John Kassari's deck?
Is that Body in Mind? Yeah, he has 1 Body in Mind in the deck, and there it is. If this is a land...
Land.
Yep.
Boom.
And the extra life for a rub-in, too.
Do you do the Frost Titan here? Frost, hold down a land? Frost, hold down a Vault Scourge?
I think it's pretty risky to let him get the green-blue sword on a guy. I mean, in an ideal world, I think he wants to play the green Titan first to sort of let things develop, but he might be compelled. Okay, he's going to go for it.
Green Titan.
Not too worried about the sword.
Okay, so what we can see here, we can do a Sword of Body and Mind, equip onto Vault Scourge, turn Vault Scourge into a 5/5, and hit for 7.
Yep.
And leave a wolf back. That might actually not be sufficient, though, to deal with the hurt that's going to come out of John Kassari's hand pretty quickly. Though, I mean, dealing with the sword, how do you do it? He needs to draw into, I think, one of his sideboard naturalized corrosions.
Or he can just kill him. I mean, he's not that far away from just lethaling him out with the Titan and the Wolf Run.
Mark Morrison has a path to choose from here. Now remember, because of the Glimmer Posts, an attack from Primeval Titan can be John Kassari gaining 6 life. Wow, impulses again. Day of Judgment cannot be grabbed.
Yep.
I think I saw a Sword of Feast and Famine, though.
Day of Judgment wouldn't even get him anywhere anyway. He days, and then Nexus plus Wolf Run takes out Tezzeret, and then John and Mark start, bumping their respective uglies at each other, and John's are a lot bigger.
Takes a Vault Scourge. A little underwhelming right now. Spellskite. Spellskite again. And Spellskite is able to stop a Kessig Wolf Run. Vault Scourge. But it doesn't stop 6 power from being 6 power trampling.
Yeah, this is...
Says go.
I'm going to put this game over at T-2 turns from John.
I'm not sure about that go there. I don't know what it gains him.
I'm not sure.
That 1/1 doesn't do anything. 1 damage is not much damage, but it might help.
It's more than 0.
Both players in a position where they're playing against a deck that is not what they would have expected. And again, we see Primeval Titan showing its card advantage chops. Primeval Titan, an amazing card, but not great if you're not fetching anything interesting. There's plenty of interesting to fetch, though, here for John Kassari.
There is no shortage of sweet lands to get.
There was a worry, I think, in a lot of people's minds that once things rotated, Primeval Titan would cease to be interesting because there would just be no lands that were worthwhile.
Yeah.
But Innistrad definitely made that not the case. Just the act of having a Kessig Wolf Run.
Yeah, it gives a whole new line to.
We have a double block. 1 Spellskite takes the brunt of it. Dead Spellskite. Another Primeval Titan.
Sure.
Why not?
I mean, the Wolf Run Nexus thing is sort of the important crux of it. Like, the big question mark always for Primeval Titan, whether or not it's going to show up in decks, is let's assume your opponent kills it on the spot. Is what you did enough to win the game from there? And Wolf Run plus Nexus means, yes, it doesn't actually matter if your Titan even gets to the next turn.
Yep. The damage is done.
Right, yeah.
And we see a Hinterland Harbor after the fetching of lands. John Kassari's life way up. 3, 7, 8, 12 mana in play. John Kassari next turn can cast 2 of his 6 cast spells. He's got 3 in hand. 18 mana to cast them all. He can get 2 of them though. Okay. Mark Morrison lays Pure Steel Paladin.
Let's see whose card advantage engine is better. I know where I have a vote.
Well, let's see. Sword of Body and Mind. Draw. Remember that Pure Steel Paladin, when you have your 3 artifacts, makes equipping free. Land for the turn. I think we're going to see another draw. Flare Husk. Draw again.
We're going off.
Not quite Enchantress.
Yeah.
However, Mark Morrison is not dead this turn, which is actually kind of noteworthy for him. He can equip both of these equipments to a big husk, or a big Vault Scourge. There it is. There's a big Vault Scourge. Now a 5/5.
Well, he still has Nexus up to chump, right?
There is a Nexus up. No Mortar Pod to stop the Nexus. Body and Mind on there. Is he going to bring the Flare Husk on there as well? I would. I don't know that one point of body matters. Nexus, straight up, right there.
He's just going to trade.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's there. Changes it to a 4. There, 5 and a 1, which is more accurate. Will he post-combat remember to move his Sword of Body and Mind? I predict yes.
I mean, his Vault Scourge just dies if he does that. I'm not sure if he wants to.
He can put the Flare Husk on it.
Oh, you can move the Husk, right. Yeah.
Put the Flare Husk on it. The turtle shell, if you will. And then move the Sword of Feast and Famine over. It doesn't do much against trampling, but it does soak up a little bit rather than make you into a chump. Oh, is it going to be before? Oh, no, actually, remember, his Vault Scourge is a 5/5, so it's not going to die.
Oh, it got upped by
it got bigger. Okay, it got biggerized. He puts it on the Paladin. Says go. Mark Morrison now gaining life from the Vault Scourge up to 26.
Yeah, but unfortunately playing a long game against Primeval Titan is a fool's errand, so...
But he does have Enchantress out. Pure Steel Paladin. Woo!
Yeah, I mean...
Where are they going to go, though? Are they going to go after him or Tezzeret? Because Tezzeret can find him some more action.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, obviously you just want to get that off the table at the first possible convenience. Certainly, Mark's life total is not super relevant as he will likely die in one hit once the board gets set up. So
yeah. The last time we saw, I think, this color combination under the lights in Standard, I believe it was Conley Woods playing the green-blue Genesis Wave deck. It was several seasons ago at this point. That was a pretty sweet deck, actually.
More fancy than good, or more good than fancy?
More fancy than good.
Sure.
But it was on the low end of good.
Okay. That's better than most decks.
At that point, Caw-Blade hadn't quite been honed to a razor's edge. It was merely a very sharp edge.
Oh my goodness.
Do we have a corrosion?
No, that's a blasphemous
Blasphemous act.
So...
everybody dies. And John is okay with that. He has a lot of mana.
He has a million fatties left over. He also has lethal from Nexus happening next turn.
And we're going to see a Sphinx and or Frost Titan.
Yeah, he's just weighing the merits of Sphinx versus Frost Titan. Doesn't really matter too much.
I like Sphinx.
Sure.
Sphinx is good.
Yeah.
Let's draw 2 cards.
Whatever.
Pure Steel on this guy. Mark draws, so John goes draw. At this point, unless John drew nothing and Mark has running Days of Judgment, it's going to be rough.
Once again, if you would like to sign up for the Legacy
odds on that are low.
Here at the stage.
Pure Steel Paladin.
Oh.
Okay. Are you sure you want to cast an equipment now? I think he's gonna. Oh. Okay. He's like, wait, I'll draw 2. I don't know about drawing there. Is that a May?
Alright, so he's vapor snagging the Paladin in response to the equip.
Oh, what a beating. That can't feel good.
So does he just die to the Nexus now?
As long as John remembers that it's there. Okay, yeah, there is a mortar pot out. So it can protect him from a Nexus for a moment. Tapping it doesn't do much. Mortar pot is still mortar pot. Frost Titan, on the other hand, can do some work. Frost Titan Sphinx.
These fatties are too much.
I love Sphinx. That card, playing block constructed, I just fell in love with that card.
So, all right. So Mark does have Jade of Judgment in his hand, but
Draw, draw, draw. Is John out of stuff?
it's basically impossible, right? There's like no lands left in his deck.
It's possible. It's just deeply unlikely. Because the thing is, if Mark Morrison does cast Day of Judgment, then the Inkmoth Nexus no longer has to fear the Mortar Pod. So he has to cast Day of Judgment, have it resolve, and then also still have an answer for Inkmoth Nexus.
Right.
And that's assuming that John Kassar has nothing in his hand, which is pretty unlikely. Snappy? Are we going to snag or unsummon one of his own creatures? Snag. Which one of my really good cards do I want to save? How about Sphinx? He goes with Frosty instead. What does that do? Okay, you don't have to pay mana? Nope, not when you're doing it yourself. And it's too late for... no, it's not too late. Because John Kassari did some stuff, it's not too late for him to sack his Mortar Pod. Okay, now how do you survive?
John also has Creeping Corrosion in his hand.
Oh boy. There's a Pure Steel Paladin, and he can just equip it all up, and he does. Do you corrode here?
I don't know, man. I just sort of... If I was John, I'd sort of be tuning out. These beatdowns are too bad.
Corrosion. This card used to be called Shatterstorm. Now it's called Creeping Corrosion. All artifacts gone. And how much does he have there? A lot. He's counting the mana. He's checking to see how much he can do. I think he determined that it wasn't enough to kill, so he's going to hold off for a turn.
Yeah.
Frost Titan.
There's no reason to, you know... You can just take your time here.
And Solemn to get one of the last cards out of his deck that is not action. There isn't much left. He's got out about 5 million mana. I did the math, and it looks like it adds up to about 5 million
Roughly
and 1
5
mana.
million.
Yeah.
I think he's had a land. Did he actually find something?
He found an island.
Now John's ponders are gas too.
Etched Oracle.
Some gray
Pardon
ogre.
me, Etched Champion.
A little gray ogre action.
Yep. It does trade with a Solemn Simulacrum. Little Jens Thorin. Okay. Draw. Mana open, so... I only see one Inkmoth in play, I think. Taps down Etched Champion. Hits for 8. And he's going to Kessig it looks like. 3 mana. X currently equals potentially 3. X for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I
5
believe.
million.
5 million damage from John Kassari. Amazingly, Mark Morrison is going to be able to survive that and be somewhere around, I think, 1 or 2 life.
Still facing down a lethal Nexus plus Wolf Run whenever John feels like the coast is 100% clear.
Mark Morrison, I think, is going to pack it up. Oh, 1 life. Another Day of Judgment. Flayer Husk looking for Day of Judgment, I think. That is not a man who has drawn a Day of Judgment. Reading his own cards, seeing if they do anything. Says go. Now John, all he has to do is just attack. And without even pumping, it's death. Block, take 2 die. Pump, doesn't need it, but it's good enough anyway. John Kassari wins 2-0. Blue Wolf Run beating Pure Steel
lopsided.
Tez.
Yep. Again, that first game, I think Mark just has to get it to have a shot, because after board, it's just... The matchup is a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's pretend